Well, Mr. Trump is giving every indication he intends to ignore the new special counsel, calling him, quote, super radical left. And even though the investigations have been going on for months, the former president acted surprised that they are still very active. Here's what he told a crowd on Friday night at his Florida resort.
Weaponized Department of Justice. Would you like me to talk about that? Larry, would you like me to talk about that? This horrendous abuse of power is the latest in a long series of witch hunts. We started a long time ago. I thought the investigation with the document hoax was dying or dead or over, and the investigation into January 6th in my very peaceful and patriotic speech, remember? Peaceful and patriotically, was dead, especially after the record-setting 40-point loss of Liz Cheney in the great state of Wyoming. I thought it was dead. I thought that put the final nail in the coffin, only to find out that the corrupt and highly political Justice Department just appointed a super radical left special counsel, better referred to as a special prosecutor, to start the process all over again. We thought it was just about dead.
Jessica Levinson is a professor of law at Loyola Law School and joins me now from Los Angeles. She is also the host of the Passing Judgment podcast. So good to see you. How will this impact Mr. Trump's campaign to run for president?
I actually don't know that it's going to impact the campaign that much, because we've already seen the former president say all of this is illegitimate. The investigations are illegitimate. Any sort of indictment, he'll say, is also just a political witch hunt. So the decision to appoint a special counsel, I think it's important for the Department of Justice. It's important for people who believe in the rule of law and the independence of the Department of Justice. But for the former president and his campaign, he's just going to keep feeding people the same diet of disinformation and say there's no there.
But why bring in a special counsel right now? Why not allow the DOJ to move forward with its investigations?
I think because two things have happened. One, the midterms are now over. And two, the former president has said, I am a candidate for the presidency again. And so what we see here is potentially another matchup between President Biden and former President Trump. And we have an attorney general who was appointed by one of those two men, obviously, who was appointed by President Biden. So while the Department of Justice is independent, what I think Merrick Garland recognized today is that he doesn't want it to look like a political appointee of one of the candidates, President Biden, is just trying to take down the other candidate, former President Trump. The other thing is this actually insulates Attorney General Merrick Garland a little bit, because now that House Republicans will be in control, they're going to have a lot of hearings about these investigations. And if he has a special counsel, he can say, you know what, I'm not involved in these investigations anymore. I can't answer your questions. So I think there are really a number of reasons why this is the timing that he chose.
Now, talk to us a little bit about the counsel. Who is the counsel? What can you tell us about Mr. Jack Smith?
So he is a former federal prosecutor, and I think at this point people are so used to hearing former federal prosecutor. That means he worked in the Department of Justice, and it would be very surprising to have somebody without that baseline experience. But we also know that he has experience in the public integrity unit dealing with public corruption crimes. I think that's really significant. The other significant thing here is that he's actually been abroad working the International Criminal Court, dealing with things like war crimes, also corruption, and investigations and charges against former government officials of foreign states. That's about as close to the experience of investigating a former president as you can possibly get. So I think for those reasons, this particular decision makes a lot of sense.
And what investigations is this special counsel going to be overseeing?
Yeah, great question. The special counsel is going to be looking at the two investigations involving the former president on the federal level. And so the first investigation involves the activities around January 6, 2021, and specifically whether or not the former president could be guilty of something like defrauding the United States by trying to thwart the peaceful transfer of power and stopping Congress from doing its duty that day, which was certifying electoral college votes. The other thing they're looking at is the Mar-a-Lago investigation, related to the former president apparently illegally retaining documents that were classified and highly sensitive. Those are very different investigations, but the special counsel will be overseeing both of them.
And talk to us a little bit about the time frame. What's the timeline for this?
So we don't know a specific timeline, and that's entirely normal. We would never know a timeline until there are filings in court, and that leaves us some breadcrumbs about figuring out kind of how close are they to a potential indictment. One thing to note is that in terms of the timeline, to kind of zoom out for a little bit, the fact that a special counsel was appointed at all for both of these investigations indicates that they are very much live and ongoing and could potentially lead to indictments. If both of these investigations were winding down, were in their end stages, there really is no point for taking this historic step and appointing a special counsel. But I think it indicates not exactly where we are in the timeline, but that these are very real investigations and that there is a there. Maybe not an indictment, but there is certainly something they're looking at in both of these cases.